Good morning. We are live. It is Skylar Thomas of the Watching Humans channel and Jack Gescheit of Tree Spirit Project. Good morning,
So
Jack.
it's good morning. So he says.
So he says,
Oh, you know what? We were screwing around. Never mind. I'll behave. Good morning, everyone.
okay. Jack, you got any current events for the people this morning?
You mean what did I learn in school today? No, nothing. Are you kidding? Are you kidding, man? It's overwhelming. In fact, I just got this little text as I was coming 10 minutes ago. Mike Johnson will shutting down the House so that they can't take a vote on the Epstein files to release them. They don't want to go on record. Yeah, I mean, of course. Well, why not? Why wouldn't you shut down Congress because you don't want your president to be embarrassed for a scandal we've known about for 20 years? Such is the state of play from the Trump-Publican Party, or the Re-Trumplican Party, if you prefer. Anyway,
Just,
that's not my current event, but that's in my head right now. God help me.
it is astonishing what Trumpsters will do not to look at reality. Astonishing.
Well, it's allegiance to the man, not to the office of the country. That's where it's come. And of course,
Right.
anyone who would disagree with that is deeply embedded, is lost in the ethers now with it. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Did I tell you I did something called the Enemies Project, where I sat down for 3.5 hours of moderated discussion, not debate per se, a little of that, mostly discussion with a Proud Boy, the right wing group that. Anyway, I mean, who of us on the left ever sits down and hangs out with a Proud Boy? And I mean, it was fascinating experience, and it's part of a series called the Enemies Project, where the producer brings together two people on opposite sides of an issue. In this case, it was the political divide in the country, to discuss and ultimately kind of dig deeper beneath the incredible differences in the surface to find out we actually do have more in common than you might believe, which is the point of it, is to spread peace, despite its incendiary name, the Enemies Project.
There's one area that I think that extreme conservatives and extreme whatever we are um, would agree is when back when I would actually bother to get into these types of conversations. At the end of the day, they would usually say something that, well, the problem is there's too many people, the human population. And so we would at least agree on that. Problem is, those are the same people that turn around and say, "Oh, we've got to build more houses, and we've got to create more jobs, and we've got to feed the world." Basically, all of those things mean killing the planet because humans don't live in coexistence with the planet. Therefore, the existence of humans means more death to other things. So they'll acknowledge that the human population is a problem, and yet cheer for everything that takes place in order to support that growing population. And I understand that it's a very hard line when what are you going to do? What are you going to do when it comes down to, hey, I don't support the growth of the human population? Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, exactly. And as an activist, a self-described, I mean, it's a title we choose and actions we take, meaning we're going to do this stuff a lot, as you do as a filmmaker, as I do as someone who runs his mouth. I choose issues that are actionable, So while I don't have kids, I'm realistic in that I don't think that, reducing the huge population by large numbers is practical, as opposed to things I do advocate for, which is stop eating animals, folks. Just stop it for so many levels. And let's stop cutting down the world's forests. Duh. These things are actionable. And well, actually, specifically the former, I mean, that's why you and I are vegan activists as well as other things we are. But specifically, you can do something about it today, folks. So that's why we keep harping on that one. Oh, and you asked me current events. Sorry about that, Skylar. You know me. I'm reading a book, which is about time I read, by a PhD, some guy Patterson. I got to get his first name memorized, but it's Eternal Treblinka. Eternal Treblinka, and that's based on an Isaac Bashevis Singer quote about animals experiencing an eternal Treblinka in the world at the hands of humans.
Treblinka?
Treblinka, I'm sorry, you're not of the Jewish persuasion as I am. So my first Treblinka book was given to me at age 20 or 21 by a Jewish girlfriend who kind of radicalized me, which is to say, she opened my eyes to the Holocaust and politics and the left and the right. So Treblinka is a concentration camp, World War II. Everyone knows Auschwitz, but Treblinka is another famous. Bergen-Belsen and Buchenwald and all these names are stuff you learn as a New York Jewish person. You hear this stuff; it's discussed a lot because that was the Germany's attempt to exterminate. Well, not 12 million people, half of which were Jews. So for some reason, that's embedded in our cultural memory. Good morning,
The
everyone. Hi.
You're tempting me to talk about the anti-Semitic movement that has come along with Trump, but then again, it's been like pretty much anti anyone that you feel like blaming.
Well, it is back to Nazi Germany. I mean, full circle there, which is
Comes down to blame.
It wasn't just Jews that was killed. Yeah, blame, and you got to find scapegoats. So the otherism, and that can be immigrants, that can be Jews, that can be black people, that can be, oh God, well, not that women are a minority, but it's just the people who look different. Oh, and of course, anyone with Barack Hussein Obama's name is an other. It's you do terrible things, then you've got to find a scapegoat for it, and that's what Nazi Germany did so well. And we're seeing it's always been in this country, an undercurrent. It was one of the things that Proud Boy and I didn't agree on. I tried to find common ground. Like, would you agree, Matt? Sweet guy, actually. I liked him. I mean, he's a nice guy.
Jesus Christ, dude, you're making me cringe.
Why? Because I say no. Oh, because I mentioned nice guy, right? Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Just even the fact that you conversed with the Proud Boy makes me uncomfortable.
Well, see, that may be one fascinating point of departure for us. So I want to get back to the old days where you vehemently disagree with somebody, but you can have a conversation with them. You don't have to make them a monster, but we're going to get into that. I know that's a place where you and I have different personalities, my friend. And it's like, no, they're doing bad things. They're a bad person. Or are they? And you would, well, I don't want to lead you where you're going. You'll lead this show. But for me, good people can do bad things, which is even more chilling, more terrifying, out of fear and out of ignorance.
Mm-hmm. And you notice that I have my ignorant dipshit hat on. I'm sorry, my get out of hell free card hat on, which means you can't question anything I say. I am a patriot. I'm salt of the earth. I'm a hardworking American. What else do you have to say?
Well, you have one that's actually.
Oh, I'm a Christian.
I'm a Christian and born again, and you believe in Jesus. Do you have you have one with an American flag on the hat or something too?
I do. I do. You know what? I'm going to wear this with an American flag shirt. That's what I should do. Or a local sports team. All the endearing things.
And an American eagle. While we make them extinct.
All the endearing things that Lunny incorporated into his pity pieces. That he must have reached out to 900 different journalistic sources to get his crying out there to the public.
What Are you talking about trash. Kevin Lunny, local rancher and business owner who is crying poverty while he's receiving millions of dollars in government subsidies? Is that who you mean?
Yeah.
That guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was. Screw it. Well, I'll keep being random. I got to get back to re-editing Death Park, and I was just thinking about a major part of the film is pointing out how the Park Service had to be shamed into doing anything that resembled decency or help for the wildlife in the park. And it reminded me, even the Nature Conservancy buyout is a cop-out. The people, it's helping people forget that the Park Service actually could have fully ended ranching anyway. Yeah. All you had to do was end the leases.
Yeah, because of the violations, not just
not just because they were temporary leases that kept getting renewed, but because the tenants are terrible tenants that constantly violate their leases.
Exactly. I mean, specifically, they had violations. There was every reason to justify saying, you guys have violated and violated and violated. You are in violation today. You're out of here. No more free ride.
And it costs more to have the ranchers there. than the ranchers produce.
Yes, hear that, folks? It costs money for the public. The public is paying to have ranchers, stewards of the land, sewers of the land on the place. And
But
Karen,
the
by the way,
economy is going to collapse without them.
good morning, Karen. Corinne, excuse me. Karen, sorry. I spoke to a woman named Karen yesterday, so I've got Corinne and Karen and Marin in my head. And good morning, Susan. And Corinne says, please don't behave. Don't worry. He's the dark hat today, so I don't think he's
Oh, she
gonna.
was talking about you. You were talking about behaving earlier.
Oh, I had
I have
no.
no intention of behaving at all today.
Okay. Well, let's get.
That's why I have this hat on.
Would you do me a
And
favor, Sky, or would you reach out and grab that little steering wheel in front of you and go like this? It looks like you're driving a car in a black car seat with a black steering wheel. Yeah, there you go. You're driving
I'm
your little
making
4x4.
I'm making extra effort to cut down on my plosives while speaking.
Oh, the peas, the popping peas. Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Okay.
Hey, so speaking of ignorant dipshits,
And we're off.
all I wanted was a thumbnail to put
Wow.
up for today's show, and guess who popped up? It's a priest who practices all the horrific things that we detest, but makes his obese, ignorant congregation feel better about themselves. Oh, hey, any glimpse at any chance of me considering that what I do is not good, completely shattered by the fact that, hey, my pastor not only says it's okay, but engages in it.
Hey, we lost the picture on the screen unless I did something.
I'm just replacing it.
Okay.
This new
He's got a
this new
cape on.
format.
He's got a
Huh?
cape on. He's wearing a cape. Is that what that is? A green cape? What
You
the hell?
didn't go to church very much, did you?
No, no, I
Oh
didn't.
yeah, they put all kinds of costumes on.
Well, costume is one thing, and I understand the value of clothing and all that. But what's the green cape has some significance in that, or we don't know?
There's different ones for different things. Like I think during Lent, but my pastor would they would change the layout of the entire altar and what the pastor wore, and usually just meant pulling this apron over. It's a front and back thing.
Okay, okay. And this is a rancher who wears cowboy. Well, where is this in Texas or something? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know, but he has his own slaughterhouse and ranch, and um, just does everything. But anyway, I didn't want to spend too much time on him specifically. I wanted to get into the topic of, yeah, I know I should have had the name ready. We can come back to it, but he's not really supposed to be the focal point today. The
And we
focal
won't.
point
Don't worry.
today,
We'll run out of time anyway.
the focal point today is the idea of good people repeatedly doing bad things and still being allowed to be called good people. These ranchers have witnessed what they do long enough to, on some level, understand that it's harmful, but they don't want to change. Sometimes that's because of money. Sometimes it's just because they're spoiled. And hey, this is how grandpa did it, and we're not changing. Or what was one of the things that Lunny cried about? I thought I would die here. Oh my God, the hardships of humans not dying where they decided at some point in life they wanted to die.
Well, have a heart, Skyward. The guy has been on that property for at least 3, maybe 4 generations, man. That's a lot of history. If you ignore the fact that Native Americans, whom his ancestors took the land from, were there for hundreds of generations. Let's just ignore that.
I appreciate that, but like he's been there so briefly, he's not even significant in human history, in European history in the United States.
Well, we're part of a new country. That's kind of part of what I mean. It's only when I traveled to Europe later in life that I realized, oh my God, we're infants. We're a
as
quarter of
defined
a
as
woman.
defined by when the white man arrived. We're a new country.
Yeah,
But
the United States. It was
right, I know what
created.
you mean.
Yeah,
I
you
know
know.
what you mean. I'm
Okay,
being difficult.
good.
So, and I want to interweave the definition of psychopath also, because the ability to, I think about Mendoza and him posing for the newspaper, patting the heads of the calves that he's just stolen from the mothers and is getting ready to send the males out to be killed because they're males and can't be enslaved into dairy uh, constant pregnancy. So they have little value other than marketing them to the other psychopaths out there that think that eating baby flesh is cool. But hi, little one. Let me pat you on the head before you go get murdered in a horrific manner. And of course, we can disappear into a topic of humans deciding that certain ways of being murdered aren't horrific because of the word humane.
Yeah,
But
the
I
ultimate.
really, I really want to talk about the dairy industry intentionally targeting lactose intolerant people. And where this is going to get interesting is, well, it's extremely interesting because I thought of the topic, obviously. But one of the other reasons that it's interesting is that we've got to decide exactly who is lactose intolerant. So, like back in 2019, 2020, 2021, there was this big move by the American dairy industry to get Asians to buy their dairy products because they were starting to suffer with sales here in the United States. And Asians are pretty much across the board lactose intolerant. But that's not going to stop the dairy industry. All you need is a strong marketing program convincing them that this is, in fact, what they need. They know better. They know it's bad, but they need the money. Well, they don't need the money. They want the money.
Want the
And
money.
it doesn't matter what it costs in any way, shape, or form. The taxpayer or the physical harm that it does to people, which brings me back to, well, what about other people? Because you found a statistic that the vast majority of humans, period, are lactose intolerant. Well, I think everybody's lactose intolerant. I looked this up, and the first version of Homo sapiens being lactose intolerant were monks who were trying to find a way to cure their hunger pains without really eating, and they invented cheese. They eventually came up with cheese, and it took time to build up a tolerance to the negative reaction their body was having. But as time went on, that tolerance grew. And of course, these were Caucasians, and we don't usually associate Caucasians with being lactose intolerant. Well, actually, a shitload of us are, but still, compared to the Asian community, I would say it's not really considered to be the um, lactose intolerant community. But I got to tell you, who can go back to childhood and prove that forcing a baby to have that cow's milk didn't play a big role in those disgusting, nasty diapers? maybe,
You know,
maybe,
you remind me. Um, I grew up Westchester, Manhattan, in Westchester County. We moved to Westchester. I was going to middle school and high school, and we had next door neighbors, family with 4 kids. It was me and my brother. We played with them the Silvestris. And they had 4 children, 3 boys, 1 girl, and the middle child, one of the middle children, was Tom Silvestri, sweet guy, good guy, friend. We used to, play around in the woods and all that. He couldn't drink milk. It was weird. I mean, milk is the thing that all of us drank. This is in the early 70s. And it was like, what is wrong with Tom? You can't drink milk? And that's interesting. But the really interesting thing is that I was normal in a culture of normal where we still had posters in the school cafeteria walls saying, drink 3 glasses of milk a day.
yeah,
And, you're a child, you're just in the culture. And my parents didn't know any better. And that's normal. And it's normal to this day, although there is a tiny percentage that is aware that it's all complete nonsense. And we're the only mammal, with rare exception, which we discussed before the show,
hmm.
that drinks the milk of another mammalian species, and we drink it well past infancy, which is what mother's milk of all mammalian species is designed to do, which is to, filled with calories and fat and nutrients, and it's the super healthy food. And then ironically, this explains a lot, Skylar, about me. I didn't breastfeed. My mother was in a generation where you don't breastfeed your child, you give them infant formula. So think about it, while we're forcing the milk of other species into our children, of course, to make money, you're denying the actual mother's milk of your own species. How insane is that? And
Oh, I've
even more
thought about
insane,
that a lot.
that that's normalized. It's one thing for it to be, yeah,
Absolutely.
this is crazy. Trump's a psychopath, and yeah, but it's wrong. This is like, no, it's normal, and you're crazy if you don't participate in this cultural tradition, right?
Yeah, that presented a little bit of a conundrum for me when I was, making the shame and point raise, and I would just think it's absolutely just messed up that you can pat yourself on the back and say you're doing something good when you prevent the bond between a mother and a baby like they do in the dairy industry. And then you got to look at our own species that did it willfully because of a social movement, equality, where mothers said it's more important for me to be in the workplace than to be a mother or to bond with my child. And I always wanted to wait and have a woman on with us before this, two men talking about this could be a problem. But listen, male, female, if you deny, yeah, I've spoken to enough women who talk about how special that bond is while you're breastfeeding. That I look, I'll be honest with you. I will judge you. I will think about you in a judgmental way if you denied that bond between yourself and your baby because you wanted to go make money instead of be there with your baby.
Oh boy, oh boy, you're really gonna mess this one up, aren't you? Oh, and by the way,
Well, we'll move on.
Paul,
No, that's not the topic for today.
there's a side topic, and Paula's here. Good morning, and says, of course, briefly, humans are literally insane, and that's as a species, to be sure. I agree.
Which, yeah, which by the way helps us live amongst so many psychopaths without realizing they're psychopaths.
Well, and of course, what's that old? I don't have the exact saying. It's a shame. It's phrased so well and succinctly, but if you're living in an insane culture and you stand out, you're sane, but living in an insane culture, you're the insane one. You
Mm-hmm.
know the expression I'm pointing toward? There's a one.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone in the chat here, we have some literate people listening to us today. If you know that quote, type it in.
Well, I also thought about, I think my own experience made me think about the lactose intolerant discussion because I was raised to drink milk. And as I got older, just because my lifestyle changed, I found myself still purchasing milk when I went shopping out of habit, but not consuming it because I wasn't hanging out having a bowl of cereal in the morning. I was going and having coffee or getting to the office or whatever. And of course, milk spoils pretty quickly. Um, dairy milk spoils quickly. And I thought, well, this is just a waste of money, which I didn't have. And I stopped buying it. And eventually but way before I even had any concept of veganism, started trying out alternatives. I was like, hey, I can still accomplish what I want to accomplish, which is basically a partner for my cereal without it going bad so quickly.
What did you try and what year? I'm curious.
The brand was Silk, and I
Uh-huh.
think it was almond.
Uh-huh.
And this is like 2000 that I first did that I can remember.
And I'm sorry if it's okay to reveal. What year were you born? No, I don't know. I mean, some people are
So,
personal about it or private about it.
74. I'm an old man.
Well, I'm
Not as
14
old
years.
as you. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Hence, I'm gray and you're black atop under that hat. So 14 years difference. Okay, so a different generation, just about. In certain southern states, I could be your pappy.
And point is, when I tried to go back to consuming dairy, there was a problem. It turns out I was in fact lactose intolerant, but my body wasn't in the mode of having built up a tolerance that allowed me to consume something that I wasn't supposed to be consuming.
Yeah.
And when I removed that, then my body, I would say, responded positively by saying, "Oh, we don't have to deal with that anymore." And then I reintroduced it, and I found that my stomach is not too happy about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also we're more adaptable when we're young is my guess. I mean, once you're like
True.
12, 14, 17, as the joke goes, you can feed kids styrofoam and they'll live. It's just not healthy.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
in fact, we do feed them pretty much foods with the equivalent nutritional value of styrofoam in this culture. The junk foods is pretty bad stuff.
I often marvel at what that I was able to grow or build muscle when I was playing sports with the crap I was putting in my body. So, which provides a different angle of this argument. You can't really point at the fact that your body can survive things and say, "See, it's not bad for you,"
Right.
which which is what a lot of people do with meat. Oh, if meat's so bad for you, then why aren't we dying? Well, you are.
Well, or better yet, you may be in decent health by whatever simplistic measurements, but you could be in much better health. It's like people who there are 90-year-olds, many of them, and certainly octogenarians who smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and they're still 80 years old, 90 years old, going strong. But that doesn't mean that removing the cigarettes wouldn't make them healthier.
I bring up drinking booze because it's actually similar to building up that lactose tolerance.
Yeah.
Perhaps like I could work myself up to where I drank a fifth of whiskey in the morning if I really wanted to, and my body would figure out how to tolerate it, but it wouldn't be good for me.
Right. So you develop some tolerance to the poison you're putting into your body.
Right.
Right. Which
So
is
this
what.
brings me back to the question. When I thought I didn't have lactose intolerance, and then found out that in fact, oh, I my body was just tolerating the fact that I was putting lactose in, even though I am lactose intolerant. Who isn't lactose intolerant? Are we not all lactose intolerant, but unaware of it?
Probably to varying degrees, and I'm sure some people can eat it without many repercussions. Just there's a spectrum of behavior. But for me, it's as a vegan activist who is getting more confident in always speaking about veganism rather than shying away from it, just because it's as I'm reading this book, Eternal Treblinka. I'll grab the book in a minute here and just show it to the audience. It's just, oh my God. I mean, the depth of it is just phenomenal, and it's given me such ammunition and support for saying that we are perpetuating an animal holocaust on the animals of this planet. And I wouldn't say that. I've spoken to too many other vegan activists who shy away from that term. It's too incendiary. It's too extreme. You'll offend Jewish people. I'm Jewish, by the way, as I keep saying every show, because I'm reading these issues, and it's just like, oh my God, as a Jewish person, I feel an obligation to talk about it, to say that what we're doing to animals is worse, is worse, is worse than what the Nazis did to my Jewish people. Suck on that, folks. And please debate me. Oh my God, because you have no idea. If you even push back on that, it just means you don't know, as I
I'm,
didn't know
I,
for more than 5 decades.
I imagine Nazis looked to animal agriculture for some pointers in how to efficiently carry out their evil.
What I want to delve into that. What makes
Mm-hmm.
you say that? Because you have some knowledge of it, or you're guessing?
I first thought about it when I saw in Hollywood horror movies the bad guy using things on humans that weren't invented for the movie, but are actually used on animals in real life. But when you use those things on a human being, suddenly
It's
it fits
torture.
into a horror movie.
It's torture, right? And I kind of want to ask you what tools, but I'm not sure we want to go there right now with the graphics. But that is so much more true than you know, and of course, so much more true than I know, which is the Nazis and Germany, which was quite an industrialized, sophisticated nation, did look to us in the late 1800s and the 1900s when this country industrialized its slaughterhouses.
Hmm.
And it's actually our abattoirs, another word for slaughterhouses here, mechanized slaughterhouses, both impressed Henry Ford about how to build cars efficiently on an assembly line, or in the case of a slaughterhouse, a disassembly line of sentient, feeling, innocent animals by the hundreds of thousands and now millions. And the Nazis did too. That's where they
Wow.
got their ideas for a mechanized mass slaughter of human beings from studying Chicago packing houses. Packing houses, great name,
So
right?
truth is stranger than fiction. All I had to do was guess. that, hey, maybe the evil people got their ideas from good people, farmers. And sure enough, you backed it up. Henry Ford was inspired by industrialized slaughterhouses.
And it's well worse than, I mean, I'd heard this before, that Henry Ford was, an anti-Semite and a racist or whatever. Like, you hear this stuff about these old industrialized, I would call him a cracker, but I didn't know how deep that goes and how he was actually working with the Germans. He was proud of what they did, and they looked to him as proud as what he did. I mean, it wasn't
Oh,
a direct. They weren't on the phone. They weren't on the phone talking to each other, but they influenced each other's work absolutely. And there's, I got to get this book. Keep the audience busy. I'll be right there.
I thought that was bad enough personally without the second part that Ford was actively working with them, but just for something as evil as Auschwitz to have been inspired, or for a car factory to be inspired by something that is done to living creatures.
Charles Patterson, PhD, and I know this is reversed now, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, type, but it's Eternal Treblinka. So this is a famous book, and a lot of the vegan activists, more academic than I am, have read this thing, and I'm just learning so much from it. And it's chilling and horrible, and you don't
Sounds
read
like a fun read.
it. I read just a few pages every night on my pillow to take me into my dreams. It's very sweet. This is what we activists do to ourselves because we care so
I
much about animals.
Yeah, I don't do that to myself at night anymore. I have a hard enough time not thinking about it because,
Yeah.
as Corinne says, I think humans are making the whole planet into a slaughterhouse. It's pretty hard. I agree. I think it's pretty hard for me not to go outside and not see humans mistreating living creatures in one form or another.
It's right there in the word. It's all you have to do is go out and not see what's going on.
If animals could speak, mankind would weep. The immediate reaction is, oh, yeah, of course. But then again, you got to bring in the psychopath part of the conversation and the mental gymnastics to say, oh, well, they don't know what they're saying. Yeah, I mean, because you've probably heard this, the assholes out there that debate the activists who say, well, I don't hear the animals complaining. I mean, the fact that the most intelligent species can say something like that. And by the way, the animals are very loudly complaining. They're just not doing it in your language. So, anyways, that obviously is absurdity. But when you're capable of that amount of absurdity, would the human race not also be capable of ignoring the animals, even if they were speaking your language?
I've been listening to a little bit of Gary Yourofsky, the vegan activist. I'd love to have him on the show. He's an interesting guy, and controversial, and speaks his mind. And I'm a fan overall. But he's reminding me that in some ways, I'll phrase it this way. I'm not paraphrasing him, but he put a thought in my head. While it can make you insane as a vegan activist in a carnist world, meaning we believe that we have to eat meat to be healthy. That's the dominant belief, which is false, of course. But at the same time, it's actually easy to have discussions with people about it because we have all the arguments and they have nothing on their side. No actually salient, trenchant, valid arguments. So once you get into it, you come up with stuff like you said. If they could speak, or I needed the protein, or the meat protein is better, which isn't true. And I mean, there's just nothing there. Unlike, for instance, as a forest activist who's trying to get people not to cut down trees out of fear of wildfire in the West, it's a harder argument because they say, well, Jack, there's a lot of forest and it burns, right? That's a threat. And even that's specious to a point, but there's some validity to it, and you protect your house and not cut down the forest. But with animals, it's easy. All you have to do is show them some of that wonderful footage like Anonymous with the Voiceless does, showing slaughterhouse footage on the screen. You have any reasonable person who's not just there to argue with you and doesn't care what you show them, and say, does that look good to you? Does that look proper, right, that we slaughter animals mechanically by the hundreds of thousands per second in this world? And
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know, Jack. I'm pretty sure the well-practiced argument is, "Oh, that's not where my meat comes from."
Right. Well, that's the argument, and that's because there's a giant advertising industry. I mean, I guess this is maybe why I have a little more compassion or a little bit more patience with it than you do. You call them bad people, and they're doing terrible things. So I get it. I don't argue that point. But for me, my perspective is they're brainwashed. We're all brainwashed. We're all culturally conditioned. And then it's really hard to change. And then, of course, you and I are much more motivated to change and grow impatient with people who resist it.
What if I said that the worst people are the people that are willing to call bad people good people?
Say that again. What was the first part of that sentence?
Well, instead of just targeting the ranchers themselves or the slaughterhouse owners themselves and the people that engage in harmful activity, not just on a daily basis, but for their living, which to me means you are a bad person because you chose to do this, not just every day, but for a living. But maybe I should be more angry, and trust me, I am, at the people who blindly sit there and say, "Oh, the good people, leave them alone. The salt of the earth. Look at them. They're leaving church." You can't.
Well, you're drawing a distinction or asking the question about whom to blame more, the producers or the consumers. And for me, whatever, choose your target. Both are culpable. I mean, that's kind of what's cool about how life works is you can blame the big company, but if you're consuming the product of the big company, then just withdraw your consumption as consumers in our American consumer culture, and you can no longer participate in it. We actually do have agency. We have power.
Boy, that background doesn't work very well. That pastel colored happy Easter background doesn't work very well with that picture.
What's whose name again? Paul. Paul is asking, "What's his name again?" Someone in the chat here. What's his
She
name
was
again?
actually referring to when you brought up Gary, which has become controversial because of some other things he said. But
All the more reason I'd love to have him on the show. We'll see. Gary Yourofsky, Yourofsky, and he's known for doing what's kind of so a flippant title, but the greatest speech. And it's it is a great vegan speech. He's a very, very, I mean, I fancy myself somewhat of a public speaker, and he's just leagues beyond what he memorizes and how he does it with punch and with emotion. Just really effective speaker.
yeah, I've meant to do a reaction to his greatest speech just for fun. I think it would be interesting content, but there's a lot of great points smashed into a short period of time.
It's I don't even know how long I don't remember how long it is now, whether it's 40 minutes, 50 minutes, something like that. It was at Georgia Tech. And what I learned from his recent interviews now is he's back, as he's, kind of back on the scene after dropping out for a decade. Um, he said he considers that one of his best. He'd been on the road for 10 years and he just knew his material inside and out, and if somebody asked a question, he'd have three different ways to answer the question, depending on whether the person was being belligerent or genuinely curious. He just had so much information stored in his head, and he jokes and his brain is melted and he can't do that anymore, like, because he was really polished at it. He was it's like when you're editing in your editing suite, you get quick at editing, and if you don't edit for a year, when you go back, it's like, oh, wait a sec, how do I do that again? You got to get refamiliarized. So he was at the height of his game then, and now he's doing other stuff. But I mean, he was the one I credit him not with turning me vegan, but with telling me and teaching me that, yeah, you can call it an animal holocaust, and it really is that bad, and it's an appropriate analogy. And he's Jewish too, so he could get away with it. And he influenced hundreds of thousands of people in Israel to go vegan. He had a huge influence on that culture to go
The
vegan.
very act of people who want to quickly jump in and be like, "Oh my God, it's offensive that you called it an animal holocaust." That fake virtue by itself is pretty terrible because it's another example of are you actually offended by that? Do you actually care about how that makes the Jewish community feel? Or are you just jumping on another way to excuse something that's horrifying?
It's a great question, and rhetorical. There's no one answer to it, because some people just don't know enough to know that it's an appropriate analogy, and others immediately are defensive for the other group. They mean well, perhaps. I'm going to defend Jewish people by saying that's inappropriate without knowing the facts to whether it's an appropriate analogy or not.
You mentioned three bird species that actually will consume the milk of another species. So I wanted to talk about that briefly before the show's over. So I'm mentioning it now because we had asked on a previous show, does anything else do what we humans do?
Meaning drink the milk of another species.
Yes.
Okay.
And obviously we need to classify this because it's not just occasionally coming by and getting some supplementation, which I'm guessing is what these birds do, but we drink it our entire lives and in large quantities. And if
Mainstay of the
you
diet. Sorry.
and if you look at what that mother's milk is meant to do for a baby cow, it doesn't make well, it already doesn't make sense, but it makes even less sense. It's like no wonder people aren't healthy when you're consuming something that's supposed to turn a bovine into a 1,000-pound animal in a matter of months.
Huge amounts of fat, unnecessary. I mean, not that I'm against fat. I have fat in my diet, and I want fat in my diet, but huge amount of fat in milk. And then, of course, they fix that by making it low fat or no fat or skim, all of which is heavily processed. So it's also then a heavily processed food, not the natural thing out of a cow's udder we're led to believe it is. And I know one friend of mine who drinks raw milk as a pushback on that. But of course, he's still drinking the milk of another mammal that he doesn't need, and he's convinced he needs it to be healthy. And there you are.
Two directions I want to go with this, so help me remember them. One is goes back to the birds, and the other direction is the real milk campaign, because the dairy industry got really offended by all the plant-based alternatives and was trying to sue, like, oh, don't let them call it milk, um, don't let them call it butter and things like that. And they're coming out there, real milk, for real people, and yet it's not. You have to alter it. You have to alter it before humans even consume it. And then you're going out there bragging as though this is the real deal. It's not. And then lactate. Lactate goes even further and removes the lactose, which is a natural part of real milk. And then they're like, oh, we're real men because we don't drink that plant milk.
Yeah, it's the and another. These are each one of these topics is a whole show's worth of depth about the power of advertising, right?
At
So
least for us.
yeah. Well, we can do one sentence and make it a show. So Corinne asks, "Have you read the China study?" And I'm not an expert on that, Corinne, but yeah, that's T. Colin Campbell, I think. I forget which MD researcher, medical doctor researcher, studied. It was a World War II community. I forget whether it was Japan. Is what I haven't. No, was it Japan, the country in the China study? No, I think it was China,
Oh,
where there was no milk in the diet, and then during the war years there was milk, and then after the war the milk was taken away. So it could actually study the effect on the population of a massive increase in milk consumption. And of course,
oh,
oh yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I've read a description of it, but I haven't read the study itself. It's a book called The China Study, and it really was one of the rare opportunities. Correct me, Corinne. Yeah, she's just saying yes. It's fantastic, and it is a fascinating study of the effect of suddenly introducing a lot of milk to a population that had not been exposed to it, and then taking it away again. So you really get this bell curve of ill health effects, and then it normalizes again.
hmm,
The China study. T.
hmm.
Colin Campbell, is that the author, Corinne? I don't want to Google that right now while I'm talking here with Dark Skylar.
I tell you, speaking of darkness,
So
when
back
I
to
was,
birds. You want to remind you. You also mentioned birds.
yep. Okay, so remind me about the birds again, or else I'll forget about this one.
Okay.
Um, the the son of a bitch, Corinne, just put the name up there so that we all know the name of the author of the study. And Jack doesn't have to look it up. She agreed with whoever you guessed that it was.
T. Colin Campbell.
Oh, I know. So while I was reviewing the movement by the American dairy industry to target Asia, the I was finding today that China actually has quite a massive dairy industry of their own now. So they're happily causing this harm to their own people. Well, greater harm to, of course, the cows, but also interesting there is that Trump's tariffs, the trade war, and the effect that that's had on the import and export of dairy, Chinese dairy in the United States. It
I'm sorry.
just
I'm sorry. Chinese dairy, meaning dairy from China to here. I thought we export milk to China.
how U.S. we do, but they're trying to have their own dairy industry, and Trump has actually hurt the American farmer again, who blindly supports him anyway,
Right.
by this trade war. And U.S. dairy exports to Southeast Asia have dropped by 20%.
You don't give Trump enough credit. He's a fifth dimensional chess player. He's so far beyond. He makes Einstein look like a lamp. Just you wait and see, buddy. You'll see. You'll see how great America's going to be again.
I don't I don't spend time watching these things, but maybe I should, because I got sucked in and watched the Comedy Central doing bits on Trump, and he just sounds insane.
Yeah.
And the host comes on and says, "Isn't it nice to have a president with a fully functioning brain?" Because it was so terrible to have Biden in his diminishing years. But oh, yay, we have a fully functioning psycho,
Yeah.
which I would not say he's fully functioning either. He's got his um, sundowner moments for sure.
Well, and a sociopath and a pathological liar. By the way, Leah tuned in just long enough. God bless her. She's a firebrand. She says, "Yeah, talking about the China study, which she knows about and probably has read, knowing her. Yeah, real milk from mothers who were slaughtered along with their male babies, so humans can steal it. And the China study showed daily increased rates of cancer. So I wasn't sure what the disease was. It was actually rates of cancer increased by this one infusion of a large amount of milk. And yes, it was T. Colin Campbell, the doctor." An MD for those folks who care about such things, which I do care about when it's studying health effects, of course.
Again, again, until that scientist or doctor says something that the people didn't want to believe, then that PhD doesn't matter anymore.
It's there's another conversation about PhDs and medical degrees. I definitely respect them. I just don't. They don't apply to all areas. Just like Elon Musk is a great con artist industrialist, but he's a lying sack of feces. And as far as government programs and caring for other human beings and how to run a country, but bright in some areas, they just don't think it tracks across other areas of endeavor.
So back to the birds that actually will roost on bovine or anything that produces mammalian milk and sample it. As Leah pointed out, there are some very other. We talked about other aspects of it, but not just the fact that you only found out of every living creature on the planet 3 species of birds that do it occasionally. Those birds don't also steal the babies in order to get to that milk, and they don't imprison animals as a massive industry in order to get that milk. They come and get a little bit here and there. And even though we don't necessarily need it, I got to tell you, I'd be more at peace with a planet of humans that walked by a pregnant animal and just sucked a little milk out and then
Well,
kept moving.
I mean, that actually, what you're saying there is actually the argument for it's what the advertising industry sells people about what milk is. No, it's we're a small farm, we're organic, we're free range. The milk comes from a mother, and the assumption is never stated the calf stays with the mom, and we just take some of the milk, which is the way perhaps it was 1,000 years ago before it all
Maybe.
got industrialized. And maybe, yeah, and of course it varied. Of course, humans have been brutal to animals. I mean, in this book, by the way, it was even talked about how being brutal to animals, the first brutality, is what taught people to be brutal to other humans.
Hmm.
The first slaves were animals, and then we could enslave other people because we saw this tradition. It inured us to the lack of compassion, to the brutality of enslaving other sentient beings. Well, we can do that with people we consider less than human, like black people on the dark continent of Africa, for idiot Europeans who thought they were superior and needed to feel superior for God knows what reason of separation from nature. It is a fascinating book, and there's so many themes in there. Oh my God. And by the way, I just want to read Laura, who's new to me. It says whole food, plant-based for the environment and health, vegan for the victims. Great little phrase there. And ask your city government to sign the plant-based treaty, which you can do on the site of the plant-based treaty. Thank you. That's a kind of our chyron here on the screen. Thanks for putting that up. And thanks for the comment, Laura. Laura.
Yeah. So a labor force is a reason for slavery, and then we double down on that. It can be a labor force and a food source. We haven't reached the point yet to where we because we do still enslave human beings, but we at least aren't mass producing humans as a food source.
And we
We
pay
may get there.
well. It's Soylent Green. We're on our way. Yeah, as we run out of, we'll incentivize people to give up their life, like Edward G. Robinson in the original movie with Charlton Heston as the antagonist, the protagonist, excuse me, and pay, like, there's too many humans. We're going to pay you to kill yourself. We'll help you. We'll assist in the suicide, and then we'll turn you into food, which was Soylent Green. I hope I didn't give anything away.
An honest doubter has a good comment here.
How we treat creatures, quote unquote, less than us, legitimizes cruelty of those elite people who consider other people less than us. Exactly, exactly.
And
How we
doesn't Trump consider just about everybody less than him?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's the extreme, but I guess it does. The extreme does prove the point. You know, where you otherize Mexicans and immigrants and people of color and women and Democrats. I mean, it's Jewish people. You just otherize everyone else, and then puts you on top with, I guess, a few people from Norway or something, whatever he imagines his lineage to be. Mister Drumpf, Drumpf, from, with a German name like my name, Gescheit, which he of course denies, and he's American. Anyway, nation of immigrants, and he's attacking immigrants. It's insane. And back to the usual topic we tap on, which is it's a religious cult that they're following their orange leader. Morning, everyone. How are you? How's everyone doing out there in TV land?
Does anyone want to call in? I thought we moved quickly and smoothly through quite a few interesting topics and can actually wrap this up in a nice, neat package. It's always tempting to ramble on, but if anyone else wants to chime in on this. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have Leah, who was fiery in the chat a little bit ago. I'm going to have her on with a bonus episode on Friday.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Going to give her own platform with you?
Yeah, she's going to talk about, whatever she wants to talk about, but we're going to talk about humane washing quite a bit, which she's been itching to talk about for quite some time.
I think she'll be giving, I hope this isn't giving away the farm. Analogy perfect. She's going to be, I think she's invited to be a speaker at the Sonoma County Veg Fest, September 27th up in Santa Rosa. So we have been to it before, but she's being asked to speak, and I think she's going to tackle the subject of humane washing, which is a huge, important topic and near and dear to the creator, the host of that Veg Fest up in Santa Rosa, Hope Bohanec. In fact, Hope is the one that was pushing back on me once in a talk we had about the animal holocaust, because she wasn't as, I don't know whether she wasn't unfamiliar with the issue or just because she's not Jewish, she was more uncomfortable with it. But that was a year ago now, and I'm looking forward to speaking with her again about it. In any case, Leah's going to be on next Friday. Or this Friday? Today's Tuesday. This Friday?
Yeah, this Friday.
The 25th of July, and that's on
I've
your
just
Washington.
decided I've got to force it to happen. We keep thinking about doing it at some point, and I'm just going to make it happen.
Decisive action, baby. What are you, some kind of an activist who actually activates on things?
Speaking of activists, despite the name Veg Fest, it is indeed vegan. It's not. They don't make exceptions for torturing some creatures.
Oh, no. It's totally vegan, and Hope is vegan. And in fact, you know what? The San Francisco Veg Society, which used to be a vegetarian society, is now officially the Vegan Society. And I could be mistaken about Hope's. She might call it a vegan fest as well. Sometimes there's like a marketing decision, because you do want to bring in not just more vegan,
Sure.
but you want to bring in veg curious people. And even veg curious means what? Is it vegan curious or vegetarian curious? But you want to bring in all of those.
We have to convince herbivores to try out vegetables. Because of this protein push. By the way, that was part of the dairy industry's campaign to convince Asians to drink American milk instead of Chinese milk. It was like more protein in ours. Everything is fucking protein now. Every package I walk by, protein. Let me tell you, I've said this before. I've got to say it again. Never, ever once back when I was a meat eater and I had was having fun with my buddies, and we'd get all of our pieces of flesh to put on the grill.
Yeah.
Never once were we comparing the protein content or even talking about the protein content. It had nothing to do with the reason that it was being consumed at all.
The way I handle that one, the whole protein thing, I mean, honestly, people, I still routinely speak to people who say, but, do they, I mean, it's a joke among vegans, but carnists, people who believe you need to eat meat, who have that unconscious, automatic cultural belief, constantly will still ask, but do you get enough protein? And the answer to that is yes, I do. I've been vegan 10 years, over 10 years now. And my response to it is kind of make them think a little bit. I ask, have you heard of the disease kwashiorkor, spelled with a K? And that is a Ghanan word from the country Ghana, and it is specifically a protein deficiency that causes ill health effects. Unheard of in this country, because no one has kwashiorkor in this country. Certainly not America, where we're a protein-rich diet. You'd have to work hard to only eat, watermelon all day, every day to get a protein deficiency. It's just so absurd if you eat a variety of, whole foods, grains, legumes, vegetables. Just not an issue, folks. So for the record.
For the record, indeed. Uh, Paula says manhood ritual, referring to the
Yeah,
barbecue. It sure is.
it sure is.
Something about it.
I went into the
And
supermarket in Westchester County, bought a 5-pound steak, and covered the entire hibachi. And it was like, ooh, look how much meat I can eat.
right,
Giant steak, and I'd cook it down to, maybe cook a pound of fat off it. Although I like the fat in the gristle, it tastes great, right? And it does
right,
taste great. It's not like I turned vegan and don't like that flavor, but
right.
learned what it was and how insane it is and how monstrously cruel it is. So nonsense.
The sadly, oh God, they push these things. They push these things. If I'm not watching YouTube on a channel that I've specifically wiped out this bullshit, God, people are so proud of how much they can eat and how much of another animal they can eat, and these assholes with their Confederate flags sitting down to, can I survive the 20-pound steak challenge? Like, this is what our species does. This is what the most intelligent species, the superior species, does with its time. Oh, I wonder if I can survive eating too much.
Hot dog eating contest, pie eating contest, all this, all of course with, huge amounts of
Boy, are we important.
the least intelligent species on the planet, the only one destroying our own ecosystem and taking down thousands of other species along the way. Not,
Yeah,
not,
but
what is it? Homo not so sapiens is the name.
it's that circle. We're allowed to do that to them because we're superior, and yet we prove how unsuperior we are constantly by just engaging in the dumbest shit possible.
Part of our stupidity and inferiority is um, proclaiming that we're the most intelligent. That shows how idiotic we are. Of course. Look at this, 10 o'clock, man. We hit it on the nose. Jack Gashite of the Tree Spirit Project with our co-host Skylar Thomas of Watching Humans, and the amazing documentary The Shame of Point Reyes, which is what turned me on to the Point Reyes issue in the first place, for which I'm eternally grateful, Skylar. And we're here every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks for watching. Please comment in the recording of this on YouTube.
Yes, do. It actually makes a big difference. He's not saying that just to say it. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button. That makes a difference because I've found out YouTube will not let you know that we're coming on just by subscribing, which will help you be aware of Leah coming on Friday as a
Wonderful.
bonus episode.
Friday the 25th. And what time is that? Is it 9 a.m. again or something?
9 a.m. again. And by the way, I'm going to be resurrecting my shark channel, which inevitably I'm going to be inserting my vegan views into it. But my shark channel, which is much bigger than this channel.
That's on YouTube. Is there a special URL for it? Or you go to Watching Humans and then there's a sub?
I think it's just at White Shark Video, but let me confirm that. It's I don't even know the answer, which is pretty sad.
Yeah.
But Shark Week is going on right now, which I can't watch without becoming homicidal. So it inspires me to remember that there's work to be done educating people. Yeah, just type at White Shark Video, youtube.com/ at White Shark Video, and I'll put it in the chats.
And Paula just asked another question, which is really a wonderful show. We should have a panel of men and women on, but it says, will compassion ever be a sign of virility? Not a wonderful question. No, it's great because in this culture, it's you show virility by strength, and strength is domination of other humans or animals, often by killing. Right, the great white hunter with the gun and the pith helmet. You go out and kill things to prove you're a man, and we know that's insane. But that's quite a discussion there. With it would be good to have women weighing in on that as well.
Yeah, the masculinity and the power, and the bottom line is it's easy to destroy. So you can't be that proud of it. You go out and try to create something, and the difficulty level is much, much greater. Go out and try and become friends with a wolf or a shark, and I would be much more impressed by that than the fact that you can murder those animals from a great distance
And,
away.
and which gender brings life into this world?
I don't know. Aren't humans reinventing that?
No, no. Which gender of the human species? Oh, I see. That'll be a wise.
Female.
You're a wise guy. Yeah, female. And of course, I mean, yes, there's human sperm, male sperm as well, but it's women who actually birth children, which is why I think generally, as a gender, they're much more in touch with life.
And since the Holocaust was brought up quite a few times today, I do think about the Schindler's List when he tried to convince that madman that true power came in the form of mercy. Don't pull the trigger.
Eamon Gert, I think, was the character's name, portrayed by uh, Rafe Fiennes.
I think it's Ralph. Is
Well,
it?
it's spelled Ralph Fiennes, but it's actually it rhymes with safe signs. It's Rafe Signs is the correct Gaelic pronunciation of that name.
I've never heard someone say Rafe.
Of course, you haven't. And I'm the only one on the planet now after William Sapphire died that knows that the correct expression is um, that the lion's share is all of it, not some of
Okay.
it. There's a whole bunch of expressions I learned, idiomatic expressions that are taken out of context and people don't understand what it is, or that I was literally climbing the walls. Like, oh, then you're a rock climber, then are you?
Right, right.
Literally now is descended into just meaning really. And anyway, blah blah
Well,
blah.
starving for humans now means you haven't eaten in 10 minutes.
Let's wrap this up and keep this show tight, baby.
All right. See everyone Friday. And if not Friday, next Tuesday. Or if neither of those, on my Shark channel.
Or on all of them, folks.